sono ingegnere in ingegneria delle comunicazioni. Sono responsabile della Business Unit Software Solutions di IP Engineering Pro, un fornitore di soluzioni IT con sede a Beirut, anche a Dubai e Parigi. Faccio parte del team di Digital Oath dal 2021 e nel prossimo semestre, adesso in ottobre, inizierò una ricerca di dottorato presso qui Sophia University sul Digital Oath proprio. Sono onorata di presentare tutti i nostri partner in questo progetto innovativo, il giuramento digitale. È il frutto di un lavoro collettivo tra diverse entità nel corso di alcuni anni. Il lavoro è stato sempre più interessante e dinamico. Oggi siamo insieme all'Istituto Universitario Sophia. Siamo insieme a loro, anche alla New Humanity Organization, che ha lavorato tanto con noi.
So, we are together with Net1, with the Political Movement for Unity, and with the Commission for Digital Oath. Now, if everything is all right, is it okay for translations? I wanted to invite Professor Declan, Director of the Sophia Institute from Ireland, teacher of systematic theology. Declan O'Byrne.
Minacciavo di fare una lezione di teologia sistematica.
So my task is giving a greeting on behalf of the Institute. The Institute welcomes with great pleasure this initiative, and we are very happy to support you in any possible way. And you will see the presence of the members will vary during the day because, of course, lessons, lectures continue, so there will be maybe more people in the afternoon here in the meeting room, so I apologize. I will go away now because I have other commitments, but must imagine that the Institute welcomes, encourages and wants to be in the service of this important initiative, also through the accompaniment of the study, but also in this moment today. So thank you very much. So we also received a very appreciated letter from Marco De Salvo, president of the NGO New Humanity. I will read it. And he wrote a greeting from the participants of this meeting centered on one of the challenges that, according to the Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Gutierrez, will dominate the 21st century. The digital transformation, its role it will play in with human rights. The NGO New Humanity of the Focolare Movement, which enjoys this, is at ECOSOC of the UN and is part of UNESCO, FAO, and UNDP, has been working for 40 years for an integral sustainable development for the defense of human rights, advocacy, peace, and education. These are all fields where digital technology offer extraordinary opportunities for communities and for people, but at the same time, they can bring divisions, sharpen, worsen disequalities, violate the dignity of people and individuals. That is why Digital Oath that commits institutions and communities to use technologies in an ethical way met the mission of NGO New Humanity that sponsored the project at the UN and the forum that on an international level are working to elaborate a global digital compact. So a framework of principles that guarantees a safe digital future, future respectful and oriented to common good. I'm certain that from this seminar will come out suggestions, operational paths, new partnerships that will help to implement the work of the international institutions. I wish you a good work also on behalf of all the representatives of NGO New Humanity in the world. Thank you, Marco. And then another sponsor, I want to call Isabel Gatti, communicologist from Argentinian, doctor in sociology from the Catholic University of Argentina, lecturer and researcher at Sophia University Institute, and international coordinator of NET1, the International Communication and Media for a United World. Isabel Gatti. So I bring you a special greeting from all the members of our network, Net1, that is Communication and Media for a United World. Digital Oath is a proposal that is articulated with the global objective of our association to promote in all areas, spaces and theoretical reflection that foster communication and social dialogue among citizens, communicators and theorists of communication. Today we are here to make a new step in this project. The most important, to introduce it in a public way so that this proposal can go through the digital networks and enable many people to consider the values we propose in this pact to adhere to it. As we said, 2024 will be a very important year because the UN will promote the Global Digital Compact together with the Sophia University Institute, New Humanity Energy and Political Movement for Unity, and all those who will join us. We want to commit ourselves to offer models of communication that safeguard the integral growth of all stakeholders in this still unequal world. We have particularly at heart the proposal of the seventh point of the Global Digital Compact, that is to consider common digital goods as global public goods in order to be able to face the challenges of these new realities as a community. And with the trust that comes from the experience of human brotherhood, shared and experienced, we launch ourselves with courage so that this proposal may reach the highest possible number of people and institutions. Thank you. And finally, we read a message from our sponsor, which is the Political Movement for Unity, from Javier Baquero from Colombia, president of the International Center of the Political Movement for Unity. He says, a warm greeting from the Political Movement for Unity to all participants. We adhere with conviction to the preparation of this seminar at the Sophia Institute. The digital world is a key factor for those who work for the quality of politics to generate a process of government that are transparent and inclusive. This is a reality and we have to take stock of it, but it should also become a strategic direction to govern in order to direct common good. We are at the threshold of a difficult stage that we can go through only with an authentic will of cooperation among political, economic, and social stakeholders. So this is that's why we want to elaborate and promote a digital oath today. We convey to the group of promoters the support of the Political Movement for Unity to the coalition that is coming up, and we want to accompany the appropriate actions of advocacy at the national and international bodies that you will take. And now, finally, a message from another sponsor, technology. After we begin with the first panel until 11, and then at 11 there will be a coffee break, 30 minutes coffee break, and then there will be a second panel until 1 o'clock, and there will be a lunch here, and we resume our work at 3 p.m. CET. We hope to finish by 6 p.m. CET, with another break at 4:30 p.m. Those who didn't register for lunch have to communicate it to Daniela, please. Allora.
Posso interrompere un attimo mentre voi predisponete? Scusate, interrompo un attimo per una cosa pratica, tecnica.
A technical note, where we still need a couple of minutes to shift to this program that Marianne talked about. I want to check the people who will remain for lunch. Please raise your hand. Thank you very much. So students are already registered. In a few moments there will be this introduction.
Buongiorno a tutti, mi chiamo Andrea Galluzzi dell'Istituto Sofia, nell'attesa che arrivi questo special guest.
Good morning, Andrea Galluzzi, waiting for the special guest. we'll shift to a presentation of the first panel. If meanwhile our special guest will arrive, we'll immediately broadcast it. But I want to introduce the topics of our first panel, which will be about the intention is to introduce us into a general outline of the problems and issues that we'll face today. Today we'll talk about artificial intelligence, digital technologies, the impact of those technologies that concern our time on our being in the world, and we'll do it through many guests and 4 panels specifically that will face specific moments. We want to help each other to be introduced in the general issues that concern the great potentials that we can use through digital technologies today, and also the risks that are behind the corner and very often in front of us. So the problem of digital technologies concern us very closely, because these are technologies that more than others enter our daily life. They enter our way to be a relation to others, to see the world and understand how things work, and they will determine us in a very clear way. And they're very pervasive, as we learned in the last 30 years, not only with digital technology, but also with social and with chat, GP that became famous, and artificial intelligence that entered our pockets. These issues concern many aspects of our life, not only technologies, but also very technological, practical issues based on communication, but also social and psychological and political and economic aspects. So the people invited today are experts in different sectors, and through what they will tell us about their experience, the working experience, in these fields, we can build a mosaic. So the aim of this day is not only to build a general mosaic of all these technological scenario, but also to be more aware about the importance of these topics. Now, shifted to the specific topic of the first panel, we invited some professionals that work not only in technologies but also in sociology, and they are active also in politics. So the first speaker that we ask to intervene is Engineer Davide Lamanna. So I will introduce him shortly. Davide Lamanna, engineer of IT infrastructure, has been active since 1981 in experience of cluster of virtualization, with experiences in the academic industrial field in the public sector, founder and technical director of an enterprise that works since 2006. He makes design, open source, and the automation, the orchestration of containers. He writes of technologies and social impacts, and he is a promoter of system process for digital autonomy. So we give the floor to Davide Lamanna. We have 10 minutes available for the different interventions, and everyone will have, the speaker will have 10 minutes. And after, there will be a debate space to answer questions. And I remind you that we have a simultaneous translation. So when you make your presentation, consider the presence of the simultaneous translation. Thank you. So,
so many machines or computers that are communicating among themselves. In 1969, October 29, there was the first host-to-host connection in the ARPANET. This was between Stanford Research Institute, SRI, and OCLA, and it has a historical date because this has finally made two machines, two computers connected. That has not been done even before. Before that, there was the communication between the person and the machine, and now there is a possibility to before there was a placement of data and machine, and this time it is now with this communication, data is now transferred or saved in another computer, and this leaves a trace. In fact, the communication between two machines give rise to the metadata. This the way they happen, this transaction between two computers. What happens is another interesting thing. One would ask, where do we put then the data? Should we put it in the machine, in the other, or both? Or should we put it elsewhere? So therefore was born the idea of distributing data where I place or save the data. So those who work in this data have the possibility to exchange data. And then was born the surveillance capitalism. It was born in 2000, the advent of Google. But let's say that today was born the basis for this form of capitalism that has been studied by many thinkers. Okay, and this was based on the misappropriation of data and metadata. Thanks for this communication between computers, they produce a lot of data that goes beyond this okay, so this there is this possibility of tracing what happens to the data, if it's cancelled, transferred, etc. Also in these years, at the beginning of this millennium, to put it in context, one thinks of organizing the elaboration, the development of the conservation of data. The distributed computing is then and concentrated in data centers. The distributed computing instead, it is concentrated in the data centers, the elaboration of this data. It could be naturally and specific need of the industries, but also practical. It could be certainly different. So was born also the cloud computing, the possibility of automation, the resources of the hardware, the saving of the data. So thanks to the software, it makes it possible for the sharing of these resources. It could be a beautiful idea. Also, the fact that the resources of the hardware becomes a commodity. And they can be acquired at a reasonable price. But there is a problem that on these resources, there are the data. And where do they end? If this is placed centrally, then technically I am sharing my data and there is no way to protect it. Let's take for example of cryptography that is always to be encouraged. This functions very well with the transit of data, but it doesn't work in the development of data. Therefore, was born, and it happens always in the world. So what happens now is this public cloud. This is now the service of the public, as we mean it in Europe. This offers to the great public, and then was born also the private cloud. So this is done through the process of the software that is private. With the birth of the operating systems of the internet itself, in the new millennium, particularly in the foundation, in this way, we hope that we could build a structures automated that keep control of the data. What does this data? What happens to this data? What are they? Are they interesting? Certainly, one of the very interesting thing to do is to put a system of artificial intelligence, which is defined as machine learning. So this makes it ready to, through the training of machines, so that the machine in a way makes an experience through the data, the big data that they process, they help it to help machine to understand new works, new tasks. Generally, there is an input and a process and an output. The process theoretically is made by a human person, who makes an algorithm that is in a way of welcoming data and creating them. But with the machines, this has been changed, altered. There is this input and there is the output, and we ask the machine what algorithms do we use. So if it is done, if it works on 1 million or more of data, it helps refine the process to make it in such a way that it acts like a human person. And this follows the system of the human person, of the which has the neurons. They following the systems of the neurons. And what we follow is the large language model, which is these networks in particular manage to capture in a surprising manner the syntax of the language of the human person, through which we can interact and produce information following using its intelligence. Here we speak of terms in the terms of marketing. And therefore, how do we manage to do this? We manage to do this because there is a huge quantity of data that a machine can do this controlled by mega corporations. Effectively, the final result could improve in time. That could improve in time. But where is the data? This is what we're talking about. For this reason, it is important. What happens here if I apply the large language model? There are some problems that we have to worry about. The problem of ethics and transparency. Above all, we've said that these models goes through a network controlled by mega corporations. And this is the first problem because these are central systems of which we do not know much. And the other element is where do the data come from, the data that are being used? What kind of data are they? We don't know even this one. We can only use it as users if you don't tell me the data. Tell me what the data is coming from. It's difficult to find out. To personalize it, it is important to do research. The researchers, at this point of view, are in the foot of a war because the system, it is not possible to use the scientific method because we don't know how these machines produce their results. It could change even in time. One other profound aspect is the origin of this data. They could be data of which the data must have come from a personal conversation through social network. They could also be public data, but they are data that were published with a particular accord with the users. The terms of service that provide for the use of this data maybe could also be data that is produced by minors and they don't have the legal way to give consent for this. And I admit that this remains to be a problem, a big problem. For this, even on this, there is a research that is being taken up. I think now of the generative AI models, what are the ingredients of this research? Naturally, the source codes of the accessible model, I should know the algorithms. These incentivize the collaborations and innovations, but they have to protect this code. And then I have also to train, let's say, the machine with the data that are accessible. In this way, I can guarantee the transparency, the participation. We're going to change it, but we nevertheless we ask for it. And then it's fundamental that every system that utilizes the data should be auditable, verifiable, that to guarantee that the terms of services of the users written taken into consideration. And beyond that, this would generate a community of the developers, as what has happened with the open source, and this can be personalized. This can be. We can also consider of utilizing this software through diverse architectural hardware. It's possible that it would require a certain kind of machine for its elaboration. Let's go to the end. Let's take some concepts here. The key is the open source. And let's say, as many know it, it is not a surprise. Certainly, those who listen to me would know that it's like this. Another concept is not to delegate to anyone else the elaboration of one's data, to create a private cloud. It's possible to do this. It's easy now. Is it necessary? Yeah. So let's accept the difficulty at the price of studying and getting interested on the problems, because it regards us. It's not something delegatable anymore. In the EU, we are already behind. It is with respect to US and China. They have been moving forward for years. That are stimulated by the private businesses. They have created this enormous potential in this ambit. And they're the ones who are bringing ahead this surveillance economies. Then tsunami. So I think of the generative AI models, open source. Therefore, I would say this is my interventions, and willingly I would be welcoming your questions. Thank you, Engineer Lamana. Open source, transparency, they are the distinction of these days, that the theme of our day. Before giving the word to the next speaker, Flavio Marzano, let's try to take up the intervention that we have skipped at the beginning.
And welcome to the seminar on for the Digital Oath, the new ethical challenge to modern digital systems. We are thrilled to have each and every one of you joining us today as we delve into the crucial intersection of technology and ethics.
Sono le intersezioni di tecnologia ed etica.
To reflect on the ethical implications that arise from our digital advancements. The aim of this seminar is to engage in thought-provoking discussions, diverse perspectives, and collectively envision a future where digital ethics are centered around the well-being of humanity.
Scusa.
In this seminar, we will address a wide range of topics in 4 panels. We encourage you to actively participate, ask questions, and engage in constructive conversations with our distinguished speakers. This event is not only an opportunity to expand our knowledge and understanding, but also a chance to build a network of like-minded individuals who share a common goal of shaping a future where technology aligns with our fundamental values. We extend our sincere gratitude to all our speakers for generously sharing their expertise and to each attendee for taking the time to be a part of this important conversation. It is through collective efforts like these that we can drive positive change and steer technology towards a more human-centered approach. Once again, welcome to the seminar Towards the Digital Oath, the New Ethical Challenge, Human-Centered Digital Systems. We hope that this event will inspire you, challenge your perspectives, and leave you with valuable insights that you can apply in your personal and professional lives. The first panel, Comprehensive Overview and Potential Risks, will give a general look at the capabilities of digital systems today,
Io non ho capito che io avanzavo,
potential problems and positive
ho
outcomes.
capito che era qui, invece
We'll
no, la
assess
collega.
and evaluate the global regulatory situation as a response to the emergent issues. The third panel will see what changes a human-centered approach to the ethics of digital systems can bring. It will look at the philosophical, social, ethical, and many other aspects. And lastly, the fourth panel will shine a spotlight on the digital oath with its current draft content as a bottom-up approach to building human-centered and ethical digital systems. So thank you for listening. I would just like to let you know that I am AI generated and so is most of my content. Now, let us embark on this intellectual journey together and have a good day.
Have a good day. Ok. Questa simpatica presentatrice, forse l'avete capito, è stata generata da un'intelligenza artificiale.
Maybe you understood that this anchor woman was created by artificial intelligence. She was given a text, and that was very good. And that makes us understand, for those who didn't see the potential of the systems, what it means, what are the technologies we can manipulate now. So this person does not exist. She was generated by the automatic system, but she carried out her function very well and very well introduced, etc. So I could have done it. She spoke about human-centric approach. That's an approach on what to focus our attention today. And in fact, we continue to talk about our topic by inviting Miss Flavia Marzano, who is connected online, and I will give you a quick presentation because she has a long curriculum. Digital consultant, president of the Committee of Ambraggio Citation, member of the Scientific Committee of the National Association of Young Innovators. Her activity in the last 20 years was carried out in the macro sectors, Society of Information, Knowledge, Strategies for Innovation, New Technologies and New Media in the Organization and Communication, Digital Agenda, Open Government. She participated in the European projects with regional directives in open source and information society. She directed and coordinated articulated public and private bodies with for development in digital development. She generated an NGO inviting governments for the digital agenda. She organized, as a member of the scientific committee, national and international meetings on innovation and new technologies. She has many other professional activities in the field of digitalization and many university degrees and many university degrees and publications in the field of public administration. So I give the floor to Ms. Flavia Marzano. She will share some slides. And concerning, there are 10 minutes for you, and remember this is not a translation. Thank you very much. My curriculum is long because I'm old, but as a matter of fact, I'm very happy and I really thank you for this opportunity because the keywords I have so far are in fact the keywords of my life. The protection of human rights, communication done in a certain way, the common goods, the mosaic, open source, which is another infinite battle that will win sooner or later. In Italy, you have the Code of Digital Administration since 2005 that would urge public administration to adopt it, but it is not the case. The concept of transparency. So thank you very much. And I will begin. These are the key words I want to talk to you, and I save you the acronyms. You have seen who I am, the keywords of my life. I have a degree in science of information and with a thesis on artificial intelligence many years ago. Now we finally see a few things. How do we decline this DDoS? First of all, Open Government Partnership, OGP, the keywords you have so far are all there. Then digital skills and digital and disequalities and equalities. Then Daisy report, DigComp 2.2, what is the framework of the digital skills for European citizens and artificial intelligence. So now only the stressed words. What is OGP? It was born in 2011, and the keywords are what you say: transparency, quality of information, accountability, which does not have a word in Italian, open data, listening, participation in and inclusive digital innovation. Because this is a habilitating condition to enable for participation. So what should guarantee? Access to technologies, privacy, and risks of AI. So this makes me think of first bias. If I think privacy or privacy, as you want, biases concerns even the way to pronounce privacy or privacy. Then I will give you the slides, so don't worry. Che Guevara said that the people who cannot read or write is easy to deceive. And I would add also those who cannot calculate. Because the second sentence, please turn a habit to discuss problems based on data and respect the facts they show. Because if the data tell me something, I cannot do a different thing. So this is only the basis of information, because information falsified by a wrong reading is dangerous. And these are the European data on society of information and digital knowledge. You can see Italy improved in the last few years, but up to 3 years ago it was in the very, very bottom of the list. So the 4 parameters improved. If you see for human capital, so digital skills, it is still very low, and we have to work on this. And as technology is neither good nor bad, but it is not neutral either. We must know that all human beings have their bias. Where we were born, for our culture, our tradition, because we are human beings, we have bias, and also those who write algorithms have biases. But it is important they are aware of this. So everything that can come out of these key words. Here is a list, short list of professions that did not exist 10 years ago. So David was talking about cloud. This, for example, did not exist 10 years ago. Cloud computer service expert. Now we have the de-biaser, that is those who have to work, the developers of AI, to diminish the bias, the prejudices. So what are they? Because if they are used in an unethical way, that's another key word. For example, for disinformation, deceit, human abuse, or political repression, then AI can create dangerous effects for individuals, for environment, and for society. So, artificial intelligence, ethical human intelligence attributes a basic importance to ethical considerations in determining the legitimate and illegitimate use of artificial intelligence. So, there are rules that tell us what to do and what not to do. There are laws that guarantee this, but ethical AI establishes policies that go beyond the legal requirements. And this is another key word, the word human. So artificial intelligence has to be human centered. This graphic represents very clearly what we are to do. And as I wrote, this seems an infinite battle on gender inequality. So if I ask an automatic system to translate, but even by non-intelligent machine, I ask them to translate the word human that translates persons or people. So you can understand how governance and the structures of human intelligence are based on human values. And why are we to collaborate? Andrea was talking about mosaic. I talk about a prism. I have a problem of, I have a prism. I see many sides of this prism. I say it is red. Someone says, no, it is green. Another person on my left would say, no, it is yellow. Or on the right side, the person say it is blue. It's enough to turn it around to destroy our bias and the bias of everyone. And because we will see all the colors of the sides of this prism. And Einstein said we cannot obtain anything really precious outside of the disinterested cooperation of many individuals. So disinterestedness is a key word. So together, from many different points of view, by abating as many biases as we can, we can achieve a result. Differences are necessary for evolution. They're not imperfections or deviation from normal. Because in the ecosystems where we value difference, there are more chances of survival and growth. And even Darwin said in the long history of human gender, those who learn to collaborate and improvise with more effectiveness prevailed. So us is more important than I. Another thing I usually say in my classes to my students is rareri. Ra is resignation, so we must never give up. Re is resilience, so resilience in order to survive is necessary. Re is rebellion. We have to rebel in order to achieve the goal, and without rebellion we can't achieve it. If we look at the public administration, apart from this wonderful graphic that makes us understand that if not all the ingredients are there, we cannot get to change. That is what you read there, but in my experience, because for many years I've been working in public administration as a counselor, I have been also a counselor assessor in Rome. That is the not invited here syndrome. I cannot start from scratch because on the shoulders of the giant I will see far away. So we can change. Another common mistake is saying the history of the frog and the scorpion, that the people always did like that. Maybe it is right or maybe it is wrong. Or working for airtight compartments like silos. This happens not only by administration but also companies. There are always someone who has the solution, and maybe we can share and improve instead. The finger and the moon, you know it very well, and users that are considered as faceless objects by those who design the systems. So it is important, essential to co-design, to involve people, because the user experience tell us in a bad way, all those people who pass by there said where they wanted the road, but the designer created another track. Another mistake is that experts make mistakes because they are experts in the previous version of the world. This is what they found in Rome. We can talk about digital transformation in public administration. So either we do maintenance and we ask for financing, but if we want to do digital transformation, we need investment. And Tacitus said this 2000 years ago. When there are too many rules, the republic is corrupted. And then the enemy, another hashtag. It is not my competence. I'm not competent for this. We don't have to find guilty, to blame people. Going back to skill, what is important is big data and analytics. I will give you the slides. Then cloud computing, as Davide said, digital security, even on the lower level, not only cyber security of high level, but even the individual citizens must learn to guarantee their own digital security. Then user experience design, artificial intelligence, what is it? User experience design, sorry, web platforms design also, but user experience design is made for many citizens, so it should be in collaboration with those who are expert in user experience. So what do citizens ask for? What do they want from a service? Otherwise it will be technologically perfect, but not usable. Besides the problem of accessibility, which is another key word, even to people with disability. Very few places in public administration are really accessible to people with disability, like a visual or motor disability, because they cannot hold a mouse, etc. And digital soft skills, also these are very important. Agile thinking, knowledge networking, so the ability to understand where there's the right information, virtual communication, and digital team working, which we experienced during the lockdown, pandemic lockdown. Digital creativity, computational thinking, digital privacy, and approach to error, the ability to be able to react to errors and failure, because to fail is human, Romanum est, but it is an opportunity. Digital listening, social ability, digital influence, and digital selling, because social networks are an opportunity to sell that we must be able to use. In the games of James Bond, if you want to have politics capable to use digital transformation, these are the keywords that politicians should work on in these years. Then still Darwin, it is not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change. Charles Darwin. So we will have to wonder. He said that in 1809, so we have more chances now. Ubuntu, certainly many of you know it. It is an open source system, but the keywords come from an African tribe. An anthropologist put a fruit basket in a tree and say to children, go and catch it. The first who catches it will have the basket for him. So the children took them by the hand and went all together to take the basket at the tree. And they said Ubuntu, which means I am because we are. The tribes knows the secret of happiness that is in us. They got lost. All the society that considered themselves a civilization got lost. Moral is open mind. Let's go back to the prism. That we have to look at the sides of the prism, because the presence of the differences guarantees digital evolution. Martin Luther King said, maybe you're not responsible for the situation where you are, but you will become responsible if you do nothing to change it. So let us look around to look with anger is useless, back with anger is useless, but we like the why not more than the yes butter, because we that's why we can. So not through hierarchy or bureaucracy, but through individuals we can innovate. These are my data. You can find them online, and these slides, of course, will be open because they are under license EPICOM. Thank you for your attention. Thank you. Very clear and very important, these words. So if Dido were here, she would certainly be, you remember the initial acrostic that said, where was that? Diversity, inclusion, digital opportunity, networking, and empowerment. These keywords are important. Also Ubuntu, now to be able to react to mistakes, to react to failures. Some sub-biases will have them in this day also. And this part of the mechanism we must be able to manage. Thank you, Ms. Marzano, and we give the floor. We change perspective and we focus on the social issue. We give the floor to Marco Gui. I will introduce him. So, very well. So, Marco Gui, Associate Professor at the Department of Sociology of the University of Milano Bicocca. He works in Sociology of Media. He wrote more than 40 scientific articles on important national and international reviews, and he works on the international field in the digital area. He coordinated various research on the use of digital media. He contributed to develop the first text that are digital competence in Italy. His research appeared on some international reviews, and he's coordinator of the Center of Research Digital Wellbeing that is active on different fields about the quality of life. He's a member of International Communication Association, of the European Communication Research and Education Association, and member of the Italian Association of Sociology. He published several books, two of them, Communication Quality of Life, in 2014, and Digital School Revolution or Deceit of 2019. So I give the floor to Marco Gui, who will share his slides and will introduce a paper entitled Relationship Between the Use of Digital Media and Subjective Well-Being, Individual Community and Technology.
Grazie, spero si senta. Se non si sente bene fatemi un cenno che spengo magari la telecamera.
I will turn off the. Thank you for the invitation to speak about this proposal of the digital oath that I like very much. And I will try to explain because I like very much this proposal of the presentation. As it has been said, thanks for your presentation. I talk about this center in Italy that looks after the digital well-being. I will try some points to understand what is happening, what is the problem between well-being and the digital media. Let's pick up the fact that at the history of humanity, many times there is this technological possibilities, and many times there is this possibility in the way with which we communicate. And every time then, there is the concern for apocalypticism, that this novelty would have brought the degradation of the human person, that could have brought some problems. For example, there is this painting in French, we see Socrates that spoke about the reading of the scriptures, that saw in the scripture a possibility of an instrument that could bring the degradation of the relationship with knowledge. The same thing happened with the electronic media. like cinema. You see here a photo taken in the first cinema in the early 1900s, where there was music that is live, the images shows that the violence that is shown in film would have brought violence in the society and brought about many problems. Notwithstanding this apocalypticism, they have reasons, they are right in thinking so. We can say that in general, that their expectations were a little bit exaggerated because long in the history of human being, we have had this benefited from the innovation of this technology. And I would like to speak about this premise. When we received this digital technology, the expectations were a bit high, some of which are here. Some of which were put into writing. What this expected gave high expectation to the advent of internet. It says that internet would expand the public sphere and democracy, that the persons would be more informed and more precision, that internet would create the condition for a collective intelligence and therefore would work for the public good. That the informations of the internet would favor moderate positions and that the people would be converging, that the net would increase the level of learning. These expectations have pushed us and the society and to give way to a society based on innovations. This could not have brought us other than to well-being, improvement. But looking at the situations now, we could see that these expectations were not realized in their totality, and in some cases, we have gone to the opposite direction. And so this paradigm of innovation, that is the component of the advancement of human beings, should be integrated with other paradigms. You have certainly noted that the concept of innovation have substituted in the concept of progress. This that this technology does not have the capacity to really bring out novelty. But with respect to progress, there is a need for the realization of the human being. That novelty serves to realize the human being. So one can ask, we have to think of some. In other words, the collateral effects of digital era were assimilated with the collateral effects, or is it only our perception? Or really there is something different in the digital era with respect to the perversion that it would have brought. So what is new in the collateral effect of the new media? So here we have three dimensions that I believe renders the collateral effect of the new media different from what we have expected. First, the quantity. We know the effects of new media. There is a long literature depending on the quantity one is exposed to. The new media is characterized now by pervasiveness in our daily life. We are constantly brought in front of the contents of the media, and therefore there are consequences in cognitive level, emotive level, and even on physical level. Depending on the position that we take in front of it. The second is the quality that these contents arrive to us in a different way compared to the past. I would like to highlight two dimensions that are different. The fact that of personalization, they arrive to us, the contents, thanks to the algorithm, the, they are seems to be personalized to us. They have the characteristic of being sensible to our needs, and potentially, therefore, the effect of these contents should evoke some reactions that are great. And then these contents, this relationship, are being proposed to us in an automatic manner. Let's talk about AI, the algorithms, the fact that they are programmable and they explain the effects in a vast scale without the intervention of the human person. It means that their effects could not be foreseen because this system work on their own. We have seen the team on machine learning that they are able to. The third reason for the diversity of the is the speed of the innovation. This create new culture, new norms, new rules that I have the person to get the benefit, maximum benefit from the novelty without running, having to have collateral effects. We have not had this time. We are in front of continuous innovation that do not that are not digested by the society. What can we conclude? I think that the benefits they, they exist and and
Sono potenzialmente raggiungibili.
they are reachable, but they require a precondition that are difficult to create in as much as we imagine. There is work to be done, big work at the level of the individual, social, because so that these expectations could be realities. So in this work that expected of us, we have to create this precondition so that digitalization could be the aim of it can be reached. I would like to bring our reflection to the well-being. I think
riesce ad essere incanalata per ottenere comfort, sicurezza, soddisfazione e realizzazione. Quindi è il processo di incanalamento di tutte queste potenzialità nella direzione che a noi è utile, che va verso il bene comune, è questa, diciamo, costruzione delle precondizioni.
At what level can we work? We have to work at three levels. At the level of individual competence, each individual have to have the competence, knowledge, awareness, and technical knowledge, but also cultural base to confront this case. It's the adequate technology. This has to be developed, having in mind not only the innovation, that they could be competitive in a short period in the market. Every innovation brings about a condition of well-being in the digital world. I am interested in digital art because I believe this is a way to achieve these preconditions so that we could get benefit from this digital technology. It's not enough to have benefits, but there is a work it's something that requires a certain responsibility from each one of us. Therefore, I thank you. I will be connected with this project to know more and eventually to help share it to others. Very interesting, very clear. We have heard about the collateral effects, the possible risk that we run the risk in front of this technology that could emerge. That he has underlined well. Speaking of collateral effects, there is a necessity also of control. The great part of this should come from politicians. So we have asked the Honorable Patricia Troya, although she was not able to be present here, but she sent us a video and we would share it immediately. In the meantime, I present to you in 2 words, after 2 words, in 2004, she has been member of the
Commission for Industry Research, and recently she had a nomination to MP Awards for the European members of Parliament who distinguished themselves for their results, and in the case for the abolition of new tariffs in Europe, in European pre-power, and program for research and innovation in Europe, and the new European projects for development and cooperation. So now just a few seconds.
Buongiorno a tutti, mi spiace molto di non essere lì con voi, di poter dialogare
I'm
direttamente.
sorry I cannot be there with you, but it is their plenary here in Strasbourg. You hear all the background noise. We're a strategic point between the meeting room and other offices here at the European Parliament. There is a very important voting concerning the European defense and all the critical situations we are living today, including the war in Ukraine. First of all, I wanted to thank you for the invitation to take part in this event, together with the many important speakers and guests who will enrich the debate on a topic that here in Europe is as protagonists for many years. I want to make my compliments to the Sophia University on the organizers, because I know how serious is your engagement, the depth of your study, and the high level of your evaluations and your writings and proposals. So ethics and digital development. I must say that here in Europe, certainly we declined it as a political priority, and I can say that this approach based on ethics and human rights is what characterizes legislation and the whole production of norms and European interventions vis-à-vis those of other areas in the world, from Asia to Americas. You know that as institutions we start out a strategic program, the digital decade, and all this perspective, this great strategy serves to guide the digital transition of the continent along 4 main axes, even if it is irradiated in many other fields. That is skills, digitalization of companies, digitalization of MPA, public administration, and safe digital structure. Besides all the skills in terms of school training and academic training, specialists, but also in terms of skills of people as users of technologies and as citizens who must be in turn digitally trained and also reformed where time passes by and technologies evolve, so that they can be an active part and protagonist of this digitalized society, and not only recipients of those they don't know well, something they don't know well. Maybe they know it, but they don't know the basic contents. very few people know that accompanying this big program with a great normative perspective, there is a solemn declaration that was signed by the 3 European institutions on the digital rights and principles in order to promote a European model that puts people at the center and is based on common values and on the basic rights of the European Union in order to affirm universal human rights, and we can give benefits to all people, enterprises, and society as a whole. And here I want to remind you a direct commitment of our President Sassoli and digital rights and based on a strategic direction. So in a series of meetings that wanted to give a cultural background, cultural dimension even to the parliament even before our legislative activity. So there were conferences with speakers on this topic. So this is the official promise of the Union in order to give our continent a future of growth that is not to be a future only based on profit and the quantity of growth, so that growth must be humanized and not detached from the bonds of a pluralist, inclusive and democratic system. And these bonds should enter not only democratic life but also in economic and the productive life. And this commitment does not go far from the commitment of the digital oath, which is the object of the debate and that I really appreciate. In fact, there is a very great sharing of the introductions of the objectives, the lines of commitment, so the digital systems are really in the service of man, so not dangerous for the future of humanity and harmful to the future of humanity. And here I open a parenthesis, and maybe I'm not competent for this, but this comes from the many voices of alarm, of alert that come about in the last few months in the world of experts, of those who make theories and reflection on digital world, and those who developed the whole digital system. But today they say, oh, be careful, we must be careful that these very important aspects do not escape human control, human understanding and human direction. So we have to face these risks with much attention, without bias, but also without ingenuity, without being naive, also to evaluate the potential risks. As you say in your document, this digital oath gives to digital stakeholders ethical orientations that are clear and very well identified in order to face positively the challenges of their work, which are numerous and more insidious. I see here an interesting parallel with the work we did in the European Union in the last 10 years, when we opened works on digital and artificial intelligence, and the Commission entrusted to a group of high-level experts the task to use guidelines for artificial and trustable artificial intelligence and to develop ethical profiles for the content. So the European Union made many years ago this, and I want to propose this to the Commission. A similar work today in front of all these changes that we are living, the extraordinary growth of all the digital technologies. I want a reflection is needed, a continuity on the precious work we did 10 years ago with this committee of great experts at a high level. I think it was a very demanding work, but very far-sighted. And from these, the whole legislative package, the whole architecture of the system was identified that concerns the new norms about artificial intelligence. And this European legislation is supported by 2 big pillars that were developed with specific strategies. And this concerns ecological transition. This is one pillar, so the system of changeability of our way to produce, to move around and to inhabit. And besides the topic of the great transformation of sustainability, also the great transition the topic of legislation, digital legislation. These are the great transformation that Europe tried to direct, defining their profile, their rules of change. We'll vote on artificial intelligence regulation in 2 weeks in Strasbourg, after a very long negotiation and difficult negotiation between the difficult political groups, considering the great difficulty of the regulation that will regulate all the relationship with the users according to the level of risk that artificial intelligence can generate, with an approach based on risk and on forbidding what is considered with unacceptable risk level. This is an example of how ethical principles and respect for the person have guided the fulfillment of legislation. For example, we forbid the use of artificial intelligence for social classification, as people do in China. We couldn't accept that in Europe. So because we have different values and respect of the dignity of people, the central role of human beings that cannot be an object under surveillance, mass surveillance. This is only an example. And then ChatGPT, you know how it works, and the revolution it can bring its use in the different sectors. It is a new system of generative artificial intelligence based on a great quantity of data and can be adapted to the task we entrusted to it. So these models can be the basis for many new applications of artificial intelligence, but regulations should consider these. Experts took some time in order to update the new legislation so that it does not come out as already obsolete. So when a legislation comes out, it runs the risk to be already obsolete. But my colleague Brando Benifei, who is a negotiator for the European Union on this important regulation, will talk about this. So these are challenges that go much beyond those that are typically discussed regarding the ethics of artificial intelligence. Today there is a convergence of digital technologies that can bring to many new technological applications, and with a massive recourse to data, which are the real driver of economy. Can be economy with many positive applications. I can think of predictive medicine, the accumulation of this data and their treatment and their evaluation can be very useful. But also there are many fields where this great quantity of data, if it is not regulated, can involve risks. So here my Parliamentary Commission for Industry and Research, which I'm Vice President, assume the leadership in this field and has been relentlessly working for a new strategy on data at a pace with time. I give you just an example, the Data Governance Act, already approved and enforced starting from next September, and the Data Act, on which we are working and will see the light in this legislature. These are important provisions about the possession of data, their management and their circulation and their use, and they're very complex. So, there are many passages in this adventurous legislation. There are new rules for services of digital markets. We made Digital Service Act and Digital Market Act with the responsibility of platforms for a strategic use of data and the whole topic of cybersecurity and technological innovation. So great work of address. I hope it was very clear and ambitious in order to set out a digital transition on very clear tracks. So based on technological development, but also the tracks are based on democracy, freedom, and responsibility, which are typical of our European social model. So social political responsibility, economic and industrial responsibility, and digital responsibility, and also responsibility of citizens and users. I hope I could give you an outline of our work. in the European Parliament, but without going into the details, I wanted to reconstruct the ambition of our vision and also the effort we made for this architecture that wants to be a point of reference, a pattern of reference in the world. If Europe consolidates this pattern and gives this pattern a great perspective, also industrial, with a high technological value of innovation and competitiveness in our system, but at the same time safeguarding the values, this can be a point of reference also for the other legislation and the other areas of the world. So I greet you, I renew my compliments and my esteem for your work, and we hope we can meet personally on another occasion. Thank you. So we thank very much Flavia Marzano, who will certainly be able to listen to us through our recordings that you will find on the YouTube channels. We heard many important words, an important commitment from the point of view of political commitment. We heard the Declaration of Rights and the digital principles. These are very complex topics. And it is very complex also to remain in time, so we have begun 5 minutes late, but we need 5 more minutes to give an opportunity, at least for a couple of questions that can be addressed to all our speakers, and then we'll have the coffee break. So, one among the many questions that can be asked, I propose a question to all our speakers who are here or who listen to us are connected online. And that concerns the topic of education. You saw the complexity of technology. We talk about well-being, reciprocity, and everything that technology can settle, and how technologies have increased our quality of life and contributed to change it. So, in all these, how can we combine an open question and the aspect of technological progress that characterizes us as human beings, and the aspect of education? So, how can we bind the appropriate force in order to become aware and train the new generations and make the present generations become acquire more awareness about this situation? I will begin. I can think of my children talking about education. So I see them growing in a digital world with many concerns by their parents who resist to their indiscriminate use of different devices. And I see this very widespread. And in school it's the same. There is much justified fear. There is much resistance. But then in the same school, when it is necessary, tools are used for teaching at a distance, which are offered by Google or Microsoft or another technological giant. And the alternatives are not as handy as those. They are not available now, but they can become available very soon. So my reflection is that resistance for the sake of resistance is totally useless, and it eventually brings us to frustration, the fact of gradually have to go back and backwards and backwards. And I see this resistance that constantly goes back. To say, no, it is right to work on the digital system, and even children should work on that. But they must do in a a special way, which is what we want to show today. So the key idea is to address teachers of every degree and all people responsible for training towards an approach to digital that contemplates what we are taking out now in terms of responsibility. So, away from fear, we should face this and give some room to young people. I work in the field, so I have important skills in this field, but my children are better than I am. And they do incredible things when I see them working. So we should give much room to them. Certainly it is good to have well-trained trainers to do the job. But even simple open structured workshops using free software, using also recycled hardware, which is very abundant, would give us many surprises. Yes, may I speak? Yeah, certainly to train trainers is important because trainers often come from previous generations, so it is important that they are trained. On the concept David said about not fear but awareness, what is there, what is not there, what is dangerous, what we can do. And I'd say to train politicians because very often politicians heard European member of parliament was wonderful. I share everything she said, but there are very rare people who do politics even on a local level, even in the regional level, and in the several ministries where the digital field is a cross sector. And to train parents, so we must have mixed communities. I recently saw a 5-year-old girl who had a mobile phone in her hand during a conference. Then I went to look at the Facebook page of the father and I saw the pictures of this girl. And I said to the father, you shouldn't publish the photos of your daughter. You know, you don't publish photos of minors. And he said, very naive, but I don't publish them, she publishes them. So you gave to her your Facebook account and your mobile, she makes photos and publishes them. So please stop them, these are problems. I said, if everything goes well, in 10 years this girl will destroy you, will say, how did you think it was possible, this was possible, you enabled me to do this. So it is so important to train people, to instruct people. Marco Gui, I can only say that there were very optimistic expectations about what the digital world would imply, and for certain, education is one of the areas where these expectations were more creative, and still now there is an approach in terms of positive expectations on the digital field that is sometimes exaggerated, in my opinion, and the objective is to understand to waste time to understand how some tools and some approaches can really be used for the objectives that we establish. So innovation, certainly, of teaching, but also search for a meaning and for the objectives you want to establish. Like the traditional teaching is all based on linear, on argumentation, on the interconnection, but the digital, the way it is now, brings us towards a fragmentation. So both have their features and their problems, but before leaving innovative adventures, we have to understand how to combine the good of tradition with the good opportunities that these tools offer to us. Thank you very much. So